Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Pokémon Legends ZA, specifically the Nintendo Switch 2 version. This is kind of a unique situation for a Pokémon game in that it is a direct sequel to a previous Pokémon game, and that usually doesn't happen. So there are going to be a lot of references to Pokémon X and Pokémon Y. Now it's been many years since I have played those ones. I do enjoy those callbacks and those references to those games that I do remember. There's a lot of reoccurring characters. I mean, Pokémon Legends ZA takes place, I think, only like 5 years after X and Y. So you don't need to have played Pokémon X and Y, but it will certainly help out with understanding the story if you have done so. In this game, you play as a character who travels to Lumio City, and in X and Y, this was just like a big city shopping district that you can go explore, but the interesting, maybe controversial thing about Pokémon Legends ZA is it takes place entirely in this city. You encounter a reoccurring character named Az and his special black Floette, and him and a couple of kids run this Hotel Z. You quickly get roped into this battle tournament where you are trying to get up to a rank A trainer, because Lumio City is looking for the strongest trainer in the city for story reasons that I won't get into now. Like any good Pokemon game, you're supposed to choose a starter, so this time I had my choice between Tepig, Chikorita, and Totodile. This time I went with Tepig for the sole reason of I've never really had a Tepig before, where I've done multiple runs with Totodiles and Chikoritas before. Emboar was fairly strong, and it was nice to have a fire Pokemon so early in the game. Now, combat is a lot more similar to Pokemon Legends Arceus than a traditional turn-based Pokemon game. It's kind of maybe similar to Xenoblade Chronicles, obviously not as complicated as that, but your 4 moves are tied to your 4 face buttons, and these abilities have cooldowns. You can theoretically avoid enemy attacks, but since you aren't controlling your Pokemon directly, you are trying to kind of like guide your Pokemon away from enemy attacks. You can dodge roll, and there are times when Pokemon will directly attack you, but if you're trying to get your own Pokemon to avoid the attacks, you just have to stop targeting the enemy, and your Pokemon will just slowly walk towards you. But it's not like your Pokemon could dodge roll, and so enemy attacks end up being very difficult to avoid, and so it almost got to the point where it was easier just to hurry and try and take down the enemy Pokemon before they take down you. I mean, the best defense is a good offense kind of situation. There are times against certain bosses where you are required to try and avoid, but even then, your Pokemon are just going to get consistently hit by these enemy attacks anyway, I feel at least. There are certain attacks that kind of persist and leave this lasting effect, like Stealth Rock will have a bunch of rocks hovering in the air, so obviously you want to kind of like guide your Pokemon out of those hazards, but other than that, I was just locking onto the enemy and just having them do their strongest attacks whenever they could. And you know, battles are fairly quick, and it is not difficult in a Pokemon game to become over-leveled and take down the enemies in one hit, especially if you remain with the same Pokemon from the very beginning and you stick with the same. They do get over-leveled. By the end of the game, I had a couple level 100s even, and so they were able to knock out pretty much anything with one hit. Now, in regards to moves, they took away the strong and the agile moves from Pokémon Legends Arceus, but instead of those moves, we have Mega Evolution, and Mega Evolution was a really big deal in Pokémon X and Y, obviously, so it's going to be a really big deal in this game as well. I'm always amazed by the wide variety of different Mega Pokémon that are in the game now at this point, because it just feels like more were introduced with like Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, and so it's always exciting when you have this Pokemon battle against not necessarily a gym leader, but like one of these higher up trainers, and they send out a Pokemon and you're like, does that one have a Mega Evolution? And then you get to see like these new designs. It's always exciting, and they've certainly added a lot more Mega Evolutions in this game as well. So initially I was actually pretty disappointed that the third evolution of the starters wasn't different like how it was in Arceus. I wish that like Tepig, Totodile, and Chikorita got new third different typings for their third evolution, but I guess it makes up for it because they get their own Mega Evolution. Still not quite as cool, I think, as a regional variant, but at least it's something different. Now, it isn't required that you use Mega Evolved Pokemon. It certainly will make your playthrough easier if you have a couple Pokemon that are capable of this ability, especially during certain boss battles in the story where you have to fight rogue Mega Evolution Pokemon, because there are random Pokemon around Lumio City that are Mega Evolving without their trainer. Apparently that causes them a lot of pain, and so there are many times throughout the story where you have to like choose, hey, which of these 3 rogue Mega Evolution Pokemon are you going to go defeat? And once you defeat them, then you get the stone that will allow you to Mega Evolve that Pokemon. And I'm just going to assume if a trainer is the one enacting the Mega Evolution, it does not put the Pokemon in pain. But yeah, during these like rogue Mega Evolution boss battles, you are going to have to avoid their attacks. They have these new moves called plus moves, which are basically like upgraded versions of normal Pokemon moves, and they are really like the only thing that can do significant damage to these rogue Pokemon. And if your Pokemon is Mega Evolved, then all of his moves are plus moves. But if you're using a Pokemon that isn't capable of Mega Evolution, you can still expend some of that like Mega Evolution meter to power up your one attack into a plus move. And so like, yeah, it's technically possible to get by without Mega Evolved Pokemon, but it's gonna make your life a lot easier because you'll get a lot more plus moves out of a Mega Evolution compared to just manually upgrading those regular abilities. Because I purchased this game fairly early, they gave me a free Route and a free Gardevoirite. This is the stone that lets Gardevoir Mega Evolve, and it's not like that rare of a Pokemon or a Mega Stone, but I decided to take that as a sign to run with a Gardevoir in my team, and so my Emboar and my Gardevoir could Mega Evolve. The other Pokemon that I ran with couldn't, and so I would have to get by with using the plus moves for those ones. I did grab a Froakie pretty early on from a side quest, and I do love me some Greninja. I know normally I try not to use Pokemon that I've used in previous runs, but I just like Greninja too much, and I did see that Greninja had a new Mega Evolution in this game, and so I decided to roll with him. Unfortunately, I didn't learn until later, but the only way to get a Greninja-ite, the thing that makes him Mega Evolve, you have to play like the online multiplayer, and by the time I realized that, there was only like a day left to get up into the ranks and earn that item, and I'm really not like much of an online player, so I decided I actually didn't want a Mega Greninja that much, and so I never actually Mega Evolved him, but he was still useful in my team. I also ran with an Aegislash because I've always liked the idea of this Ghost Sword. Unfortunately, I didn't find him that great in Pokemon Legends ZA because anytime I send him out into battle, he has like an additional animation to get out of his like defensive stance, and so he wasn't that great, but I was dedicated to him at this point, so he stuck with me till the end of the game. I also got a Sail Fossil pretty early, and I've always been curious about the Aurorus. I think that's how you say its name. It's an ice rock fossil type Pokemon, and I like the idea of having an early game ice Pokemon. I really wish this one did get a Mega Evolution in this game, but unfortunately that's not the case. But I really liked my Aurorus. The ice abilities came in handy a lot more than I thought that they would. Now, you are allowed to have up to 6 Pokemon in your party, but because I knew that I did want to try and complete the Pokedex in this game, my 6th slot was basically just like any type of weak Pokemon that I just needed to level up to evolve. And so by the end of the game, like, my Pokedex was mostly filled up at this point, just because that 6th slot was always revolving for the Pokemon that could evolve. Now, the beginning of this game has been getting a lot of criticism, and rightly so, because it is very hand-holding. It's very much like you have to stay on these rails. You can't go wander off and explore for a long time. Like, you're talking a couple hours of basic tutorials, probably of things that you already know or could figure out yourself fairly easily, but it is kind of frustrating. Like, anytime you try to navigate off the beaten path, they kind of call you back over, like, hey, no, don't go over there, come back over here. And so it can be frustrating until they finally do let go of of the reins and let you actually explore this big city on your own, which was like the main appeal of the game, right? I would say at this point, Pokemon Legends Arceus is probably my favorite Pokemon game of all time. And I really liked the approach of like going to all these different biomes, and it's like way early in the Pokemon universe where like things with Pokemon aren't established and you have to like craft your own Pokeballs and stuff like that. I really loved that game. And so I was really excited when they announced a new Pokemon Legends. And so I didn't do that much research for this one. It was pretty much a day one purchase for me just because it was called Pokemon Legends. But I was kind of let down by the lack of exploration. Like, I thought surely you're not just in the city the whole game. Like surely they let you navigate to other areas, and they do on a very minor scale. Like there's a part where you can go down into the sewers or like underground labs, but like it's for the majority of the game, like you're just in the city. And so how they kind of like divide the Pokemon catching areas and the battle areas is they have like these holographic zones sectioned out, and as you are playing through the main game, like you get more and more of these wild zones that they dedicate just for wild Pokemon. And so that's these like really small zones are where you go to catch new Pokemon. Of course there are wild Pokemon like outside of these zones, but they're a lot more far and few between. Usually they're going to be located on the rooftops if they're not in the zones. But I didn't like how they kind of like sectioned these off. I would have liked a lot more variety in terms of my environments, because you're either in like a city street or you're more in like a park area trying to catch Pokemon. But it just felt so small. It felt like I wasn't in this big world exploring all this untouched land. Everything was so established by the time my character got into the city. And so like the exploration is all going to happen in these alleyways or on the rooftops, which can be cool, but not for the whole game. It still was satisfying trying to check off all of the Pokemon for my Pokedex. Whenever you hover over a zone, it'll kind of show you which Pokemon are in the area that you have and haven't caught. So it does have that like checklist mentality that I like filling out when I'm trying to play through a Pokemon game. And it is exciting whenever I do progress in the main story and a new zone gets unlocked and I'm like, oh, I wonder what Pokemon are available at this one, you know? And in these areas, occasionally you have a chance of running into these alpha Pokemon, same as from Pokemon Arceus, where they're like a lot bigger and they have red eyes and they have a lot better stats. Early game, these things can be particularly scary, and if you do catch one, then you are going to have a stronger Pokemon in your team. So it's always exciting finding like an alpha Pokemon of one of your favorites, because then you can catch it and add it to your team. It does have a day-night cycle that's going to happen automatically. You can trigger this by sitting on a bench, but at night, this is where you're really trying to advance your letter rank in this tournament. And there's certainly a lot more of an emphasis in trainer battles in ZA compared to Arceus. It's almost kind of like these red zones open up at night, and they're filled with trainers that have maybe like 2 to 3 Pokemon, and there's kind of like a stealth aspect to it where you kind of have to like send your Pokemon to go and attack theirs, and if you do, then you get advantage on them. But if they spot you before you initiate combat, then you're kind of like stunned for a couple seconds, and then their Pokemon can get like a free attack on you. But every time you defeat a trainer, you're going to advance on these points, and once you reach a certain amount of points, then you do get a challenger ticket. This is where you'll battle almost, I guess you could call it like a mini boss trainer, and if you defeat this mini boss trainer, then you do advance a letter grade. So you're gonna start as Z, and then you defeat one of these guys, you get promoted up to Y. The weird thing about this like rank advancement system though is I want to say it's like once you get to like stage X or something like that, like you're really not, you advance maybe like 3 or 4 letter grades, and then in the story it's like, okay, we're gonna bring you all the way up to grade F, and it's just like, well, why did you even do this like alphabet ranking system if you're just going to skip 2/3 of it? But I think they really had their heart set on this alphabet, the Z to A aspect, and so I don't know, I just thought it was kind of weird that it has you like skip from like X all the way to F or something crazy like that. The other cool thing about these battle zones, though, are there are ways to make it so you can gain more points quickly, because you get like these little mini challenges, these cards on the ground, and these cards are like little quests, little tasks, like, hey, use 3 super effective fire attacks, or get the element of the surprise, take advantage of an enemy 5 times. And if you complete these little mini challenges, then you'll get extra bonus points. And so if you utilize enough of these, then you will get your challenger's ticket a lot quicker than if you had just been battling regular enemies. I don't like how the day-night cycle will like automatically activate when you're in the middle of the battle. It's a frustrating thing when you're in the middle of like an alpha Pokemon encounter and you're like whittling them down because you really want to catch them or defeat them, and then the night cycle or day cycle triggers and suddenly like the whole battle gets reset. Very frustrating. It doesn't do it during trainer battles, but during like wild Pokemon encounters, it can trigger and like mess up your battle halfway into the battle. There's a lot of cafes around, and the cafes you can like sit down and drink coffee with your Pokemon. It's a really easy way to get friendship for your Pokemon, so that was really nice when I was trying to evolve all those evolutions. But there's also like these cafe restaurants where it's just like a series of battles that you can do. There are a ton of shopping districts, a big emphasis on clothing and designs, but the clothes themselves were fairly expensive, and I'd rather use my money to buy new Mega Evolution Stones and other items, and so I didn't customize my character that much. There's a character that you can go talk to that will just like randomize your appearance until the day-night cycle triggers, and so I kind of mix it up sometimes by talking to that person. You also have these mega shards, these purple rocks that are like built up all over the building walls and the floors, and you can have your Pokemon destroy those to get Mega Stones, and then you can exchange those Mega Stones for new Mega Evolutions. There are these scaffolds that are scattered throughout the city, and they're just like mini platforming challenges, which is kind of weird because like Pokemon really isn't known for its platforming capabilities, but you climb them, and then you have to like carefully walk across these planks. Your little Pokedex has this ability where if you grab onto it, then it can kind of do this little hover, and that's kind of how you can navigate these wider gaps. At that point, I'm like, just give us like a jump button or something. If you want to have an emphasis on like traversing across these rooftops or these scaffolds, like let us just jump, and then that way we don't need to like fall off the ledge to trigger the Pokedex lift. It's kind of like a weird platforming control. But as you navigate through these scaffolds, then you can get these colorful screws, and you can exchange these colorful screws for some passive bonuses. Like they make it easier to catch Pokemon, or it makes it so you earn more money when you defeat trainers. So if you are starting out this game, I definitely recommend that you look out for those colorful screws and gather them up as soon as possible, because I think there is even one that makes it so your Pokemon level up faster, which is always a nice bonus. I really liked the characters in this game. Pokemon is no stranger to having you go around with a group of kids and crossing paths with them as you go through your adventure, but this one, like, you're actually part of a team, and this team is in charge of advancing up in the tournament ranks, helping control all of the rogue Mega Pokemon, and all 3 of these characters have their own unique personalities and their own story and their own signature Pokemon. And I think just because you get to spend so much time with these characters, you do kind of gain an affinity with them, especially Tawny. I didn't know this, but like Tawny's the opposite gender of whatever character you picked, so I thought Tawny was just always a girl, but I've seen footage of Tawny being a boy, and I really like the character Tawny. She's like the leader of your group. And I did like that you got to spend more time with Az, because he was such this mysterious character in Pokemon X and Y, just like this wandering giant, and in this one he's trimmed up, he's cleaned up, he doesn't look like an unhoused person anymore. He's got his hair in like a braid and stuff, and I do like that we got to learn more about his backstory backstory, and his characterization is fleshed out more as well. There's nods to the detective agency that was like in the post game of X and Y. There's a ton of stuff, and you do encounter more. They're not quite like gym leaders, but they are like major characters that you have to defeat in order to advance your rank, and these characters are very much reoccurring as well in the story, and will often ask you for rematch battles, and you kind of get to know their teams. So I did like the characters. The plot itself is very much like, hey, do this random act and then quell these 3 rogue Pokemon, and then do this random act and then quell these 3 rogue Pokemon, and do this random, and in between trying to defeat a bunch of random trainers during the night cycle. I just think that I enjoy Pokemon more for its collecting aspect than its trainer battles, and I think that's another reason why I liked Arceus a lot better than this one, because it's all about like traversing across these wild, uninhabited lands, trying to collect all these rare Pokemon, where this one, the emphasis is like, hey, go in this red zone and just battle a ton of trainers. I just liked the areas where you go, and I did like these very small sections where you like go into the sewers of the city, or you go into these underground labs, and I just liked that aspect so much better. I wish the whole game was more of that, more of like me and my team of Pokemon exploring this dangerous area rather than just like, you're in a red zone, go battle trainers. At the time of this recording, the DLC has not come out yet, but I have beaten everything that I can up to this point. That's not true. I haven't beaten everything. There are like these research tasks where you gain certain points, and this is like your main way of getting super strong TMs. You basically like have to go catch 10 grass Pokemon, or fill out your Pokedex, or trade, or do X amount of battles, and as you do these little tasks, you earn these research points, and it is possible to get these research points up to level 50. I think I got it up to like 43, but I did fill out the Pokedex to the extent that I could. There are, I think, 6 more Pokemon that I still need to completely fill out the Pokedex, but these Pokemon are required to evolve by trading, which is like, I guess I'm not going to be able to do that. Another point for Pokemon Arceus is that you actually have an item that will evolve these Pokemon that normally could only evolve by trading. And so I loved Pokemon Legends Arceus because you could 100% complete the game without trading. You could do it all by yourself, and I did 100% complete that game, and I did do all the research tests for that one. This one, I mean, I got close. Like, I did a lot more than just roll the credits, which is what I normally do in a video game, but I don't have the drive to finish all of those research tasks. I don't have the drive to go hunt out somebody to go trade and complete the Pokedex. I mean, maybe I will if one of my friends gets the game, but yeah, I'm not going to 100% this one, I think. I could spend some time doing like the online battles, the online tournament, but again, that's not really my scene either. Maybe I'll pick up the DLC when it does come out, but at this point, I'm kind of mixed. I guess I just had such high hopes for the next Pokemon Legends game because I love Pokemon Legends Arceus so much that how could this game go wrong? But I feel like it took away a lot of the aspects about Pokemon Legends Arceus that I enjoyed. I still had fun with it. It's still a good Pokemon game. I still did the majority of the content that I could, but it's not as good as Arceus. I think I'm gonna give this game a 4 out of 5. It's a low 4 though. I was debating between a 3 or a 4, but at the end of the day, I did enjoy it. Would I have enjoyed it nearly as much if it wasn't a Pokemon game, but like the same exact gameplay? Probably not, but I am a Pokemon fanboy, and so that genre, that franchise can take a game a long way in my eyes. So at the end of the day, I guess I'll say that it's a great game, but it's no Pokemon Legends Arceus. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Pokemon Legends ZA, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!